Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Private Practice with Soul podcast. This is the first podcast for counselors that just don't align with the traditional approaches to business and that want to use their spiritual gifts, talents, and interests to create, you guessed it, a private practice with soul. So, look, leave it to me to provide you with everything you need, including strategies that you can use to increase your income, reduce your workload, and of course, increase inquiries and referrals to your beautiful soul-led private practice. I love it so much. If you haven't done it already, grab your journal, grab your pen, and let's begin. Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. I hope that you're all excited for the weekend. I know here, Gabe and I are getting excited for a big day of relaxing in the shade because it's going to be 37 degrees. 37. It's kind of reminding me of when I was living in Arabia. We would work in Egypt, especially. We were working and they had a rule that said that if it got to 50 degrees, it would be tools down. And one of the things that we used to giggle about was that although it would feel like 50, it was only ever reported as reaching a maximum of 49. So funny. But I mean, you get heat in the desert, right? And you get dust storms. In fact, I remember being in I lived in this apartment. It was called the Sama 2 building. I'd say it's still there, and it was in Sharjah. Sharjah is one of the 7 Emirates. And it's a really, 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 really strict emirate as well when it comes to, the religion and the beliefs and the laws that govern that emirate. But anyway, I remember that there are, I forget how to say the word, is it marionettes? On the corner of every single block that do the call to prayer. And it's quite an adjustment to get used to when, it's a bit of a culture shock when you first go there because it's so loud and they do it over the great big speakers so that everybody can hear. And then everybody knows, it's time to pray. And it's really... a big adjustment initially if you're not used to it. Sorry, just whacked my microphone. But by the end of living there, I came to really value it and really appreciate it. So something that started off as very different and strange and new and unfamiliar became familiar and comfortable and something that I felt very, very secure with, as did a lot of my travels. So for years, I lived in the Middle East because I just felt a connection. I still can't put my finger on it, but I just felt such a connection. Lots of people, they say, I'm going to Germany, I'm going to, France, I'm going to the UK. Well, I did those things too, but I never felt as home as I did in the Middle East for some reason. And I spent 4 years living and traveling to all different countries, Lebanon, I really loved, and Jordan I really loved, and Egypt was my very, very favorite. It was just a bustling community where the city just sleeps sort of during the morning, but it's up all night and it's so noisy, and it's just this beautiful percussion of traffic, of horns honking, of people talking and laughing, of tea glasses clinking. It's a heady smell of, shisha, and no, not the bad shisha. It's just scented tobacco. And I used to have shisha as well, and it was so beautiful to just be so immersed in somebody else's culture, but it just felt like my own. Like I could navigate my way around there so easily. And I remember one of the big things, I know I'm going off on a tangent, sorry, but just enjoy the ride. But I remember that I was so excited to go and see the pyramids because growing up here in Australia, right, we didn't have the internet back then, but I had National Geographic, and I only ever remembered seeing posters of pyramids at school and in encyclopedias at home and stuff like that. And I only ever saw pictures of one pyramid and one sphinx, And I was so surprised because when I went to Egypt, I was like, yeah, I want to go and see the pyramid. And there's like a lot of pyramids. And my driver was saying, well, which one do you want to go to, miss? And I was like, the main one. And when I got there, it was so not what I expected because, well, this is not very spiritual, but like when I got there, it was not what I expected. Like, it's kind of in the middle of a city, and well, it's not far from the city. Like you can see it from the city, and you go there, and it's like the cyclone fencing around it, and you can get horses and donkeys, and you can ride around the perimeter of it and things like that. But there's a road adjacent to the pyramid, and on that road there's like a KFC. A KFC. Oh, I did not expect that. And there were a few little shops where you could get souvenirs and things. It was really on the edge of town, kind of where we might expect an airport to be. It was kind of like that sort of edge of town. And there was a lot of rubbish around it and everything. And I just remember feeling kind of like sad when I got there because in my mind, I had this picture from growing up of what a pyramid looked like. And it was all, I didn't know at the time, obviously, but it had been photoshopped. But yeah, when I was there, I went to like the main pyramids, but I really enjoyed going to the other pyramids. And there was a pyramid in Saqqara, and it didn't look like anything from the top, right? It was just, well, it's desert, and there were ropes, and I could see a little bit of a point coming up, but the point wasn't that high. And then there were Egyptians, and they were standing there, and they were guarding the pyramid. And they said that you could go inside, but you couldn't take photos or anything like that. And it was like $1 to go in. And I just remembered being so curious. And I started to walk down, and the handrail, if you like, was sort of rope. And almost like I walked about a meter in, and you have to duck down because the entrance is so low, so you almost hunched over, and then all of a sudden it's like this really steep descent. It was so bizarre. But anyway, so you go down, 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 down. It's so steep. And yeah, the stairs at the beginning, and then there's no stairs. And it's just like kind of a ramp. And you're just going down. I don't know how far down we were, but I can tell you to this day, I can remember the smell in the air. The air was so cool, and the air was so comforting, and the air was not damp or anything like that. It was like a dry cool, and there was a scent in there, and I don't know whether it was incense. It smelled a little bit more like oud. I don't know if that was because of what had been buried in that tomb, in that pyramid with somebody, or if it was the smell, because oud is a very popular fragrance and essence in the Middle East. So it could have been just a lingering effect from what other Egyptians had been, wearing when they'd gone into that space. But anyway, so you go in there, and then all of a sudden, like, you're crouched down, almost squatting down to get in. And then you get in and you can stand up. And then there's this great big triangle above you, like an apex. And there are a couple of sides that you can go to. And, well, it's like divided into rooms. And so I went into the room on the right, and I looked up, and do you know, it had been painted black, and there were etchings of white stars. And the Egyptian who was who was there guarding it, explained to me that that was because they wanted whoever was, resting there to be able to feel like they were connected with the heavens above. And I just thought that was so beautiful. And the star etchings kind of looked like ones you would do if you were very young. It was just a very simple, it was like an addition sign overlaid with a multiplication sign. That was it. That was how the stars were. And I don't even know how they got that black paint down there, but they did. And it was just so, and I remembered, because it wasn't a high, we didn't have much ceiling space. And I remember laying down in the sand in this floor of, the pyramid, and just looking up and just having nothing but awe and appreciation. And yeah, just really awe, thinking, wow, this is history right here. This is so special right here. And then I went into the adjacent room, and in the adjacent room, there were paintings. And it was explained to me that all the different people, so you can imagine, you've seen it on TV, there's the pictures of like the profiles of people walking and holding trays with things. And anyway, it was explained to me that one of the people that was holding things was like the royal manicurist. And they didn't use that word at the time, but that's what his job was. His job was to like decorate the nails. And he was holding a tray, and the guide in the pyramid was able to explain to me what everything was on the tray. And then there was another male, they were all males. There was another male depicted, and they were like life-size paintings, right? And so the next one was somebody, and he was wearing it looked like a skirt. I know it's not the very technical name or anything, but it looked like he was wearing a skirt, and he was carrying a tray, and it had bottles on it, and he was the royal anointer, and he used to go and make special anointing oil mixes, I guess, like essential oils, but he used to make special oil mixes, and they were not only ceremonial, but they were for everyday use to support the health and well-being of the person who was in the, who'd been passed over and was in this tomb. But that was his job. And, I was able to learn that some of the oils were made, by using heat. Some of the oils were made by using weight, so like actually pressing things together. And yeah, it was like really a thing, and the Egyptians really believed in that. And then I found other pictures where they've been worshipping like the sun, and there were great scenes of like the sun and the Nile, and animals on the Nile, near the water and everything. And it was explained to me about how they really tried to work with the rhythms of the seasons. And I just remember thinking, this is so cool, because I was still learning about spirituality, and this was a new concept to me, the idea of working with the seasons. And it wasn't only for harvesting, it was in their business, it was with their technology, it was with their families. Do you know what I mean? And it was just such an experience. And I learnt so much from being in the Saqqara tomb. And I didn't want to come home, honestly. Like, I could have just stayed in that tomb all day long. And then guess what? I had to leave. And so, I go back up the dirty ramp, and then back up the steep stairs, doubled over, finally get out into the daylight. And I can just remember being so stunned by the sun and everything there. And also, I was just so in awe of it. And I went down and I wrote about it in my diary over the road at KFC, because that was the only place I could get a table. So anyway, it was really an experience to learn and to appreciate how things were done then. And I wanted to go back. So a couple of weeks later, I wanted to go back, and do you think I could find that tomb? I found so many other pyramids. Couldn't find that one ever again. So I feel like maybe that one was gifted to me, and it was the time for me to see it, and it was the time for me to take a lesson. But one of the things that I did learn about with that Saqqara tomb, the Saqqara pyramid, was about a belief that the Egyptians had back then that we now call the law of divine correspondence, which is believing that there's a connection between the spiritual and the physical realm. And what they used to believe was that, you know, the sun gods and the weather gods and you know, if you believed in that, then you would see the physical manifestation things in your world, like in your 3D reality. And so they really believed in this. And, you know, we don't necessarily refer to it in that way today. I think in modern day times, we would probably be saying, well, you know what, it's that whole idea of as above, so below, you know, that spiritual with the here on earth stuff, or the as within, so without. And so I think using that as you know, when we apply that to the business of business, when we apply that to the business of private practice, I just feel like we've received an opportunity to continue the work that was done historically by Egyptians thousands of years ago. And it just lights me up so much. I just think, wow, there really is this lineage here. Whether people are aware of it or not, there really is, and it continues to this day. And I just feel like that is something so powerful. And if it's endured for this long, then of course I want to try and apply it now in these times. I mean, they were applying it to their work then, which just looked a little bit different to our work now. So thinking about as within, so without, and as above, so below, and how that applies to business, I guess for me what that means is whatever I believe, right, that's my in, whatever I believe is what I'm going to receive, my without, right, the external. So I've got the internal with my beliefs and my values, and the external is what's actually showing up for me in my business. And I want to give you an example of, you know, in real world terms of what that can look like. So if I believed that it was going to be difficult for me to start a private practice, and if I believed I needed to have all my ducks in a row before I could see clients, like if I had an if this then that mindset, then what I would be seeing in my external world is obstacles to me being able to move into my private practice. I would be seeing more things that I needed to do so that, or before I can take that next step to book in a client. But can you see that if I change my internal world and I change, say, a thought, or I change a belief, and I say, well, actually, maybe I don't need to have everything sorted out. Maybe I can start seeing clients while I'm building a website. Maybe I can start receiving clients just from a Psychology Today profile, or do you know what I mean? Then what you're going to start to see on the external is you'll start to see opportunities for you to work with people, and you'll start to see opportunities to, you know, receive a client and start the therapeutic process with them. So this is just an example, and I guess I know I'm putting it in super simple terms here, but it comes back to one of the main themes of, you know, creating a private practice with soul and what that actually means. And that is, you know, when you're connected to your higher consciousness, when you're connected to your higher self, when you're connected to that inner wisdom, when you're connected to the within, that's when you then start to manage, control, direct what you're going to experience in the without, right, in the external. So I'd love for you to, you know, grab your podcast journal, and when you're ready, maybe start to just write down what you're seeing in your private practice at the moment that you would like to be different. Maybe it's the number of clients, maybe it's the number of inquiries, for example, and maybe it's you want to have a new team member, maybe it's you want to sign a lease on that new building, or whatever it is. And I want you to write that down, and then be honest with yourself and write down what's coming up for you on the inside. Like, what are you believing about this? Are you saying to yourself, this is going to be hard, this is going to be tricky, this will never happen for me, it's going to take a long time, there's no such thing as da 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 da. Like, just write it down, because that's going to be a window into the solution for you. And that's where the gold is. So write it down. No one's going to see it, just you, but write it down. And you will start to see a correspondence between what you're believing and what you're experiencing. So all we want to do once we have that awareness is ask ourselves, how do I want to change this belief? Do I want to change the belief? Because sometimes we have to remember as well, sometimes changing a belief is super scary, because we get in the place of it being really familiar, of stagnation in the business, for example. I'm constantly posting on my social media and I don't get any engagement. Over time, that becomes what's familiar. So when we say, let's change that belief to something like every day I reach more people, or every day I know when I post, I've got my silent audience listening to me, so I'll keep doing it, or something like that. Sometimes changing that belief can bring up other things like, I'm not ready. What if I get inundated with referrals? What if my diary suddenly fills up and then I don't have the freedom of my time anymore? So that's why doing this inner work is so helpful and so important. So if there's an opportunity and you're ready or you're open to changing a belief, maybe now is the time for you to do that, because once that happens for you, then you'll start to see change in the real world. And the other thing too is like that idea of as above, so below. Whatever you're saying to yourself in your ego mind is what you're going to see. But I want you to start tuning into a higher mind. That's what it's referred to. It's not my words, but a higher mind, like your higher conscious, your higher self. I want you to start to tune into that loving voice there for guidance around what could change for you, what aligned action you could take to experience some changes in the external. And I feel like this is the key. This is the key. And you know what? It's not like any single one of us came up with this idea. This is just knowledge that has been passed on for thousands of years. And we're just using this knowledge now in the context of what's relevant for us now, private practice. And hey, I don't know, I wonder if Egyptians even had private practice back then. I'm sure they had healers. We know that they had healers, and we know that they had medicine people, but I guess they were all running their businesses, weren't they? It'd be an interesting, maybe I'll do some research on the business of doctoring back in Egyptian times and the approaches that they took. But a lot of it was based on seasons and that whole idea of rhythm. And we've discussed that before as well, and understanding that whatever you see in, your practice out there in your 3D reality is also indicative of the season that your business may be in at that particular time. And one of the other, I could talk about this all day long, but one of the other things that I learned when I was in Egypt was about the importance of ritual. And in fact, in Marketing with Soul, with the ladies in there last week, we went through how to create rituals and, the elements of a powerful and effective ritual. And, I'm so excited to see the rituals that they come up with to support them in their business, with the different aspects of the business that they wanted to focus on for 2023. But yeah, we even see rituals with Egyptian business, and that was rituals again around the weather, and it was mostly around the sun, it was mostly around harvesting, it was mostly around family, all those sorts of things, and understanding that there are going to be quiet times and times of growth and and they had a whole way of showing up in these different seasons. They didn't get upset because it was winter, they just said, okay, it's winter and this is what we do in the winter season. So this is one of the things that I really love about us now, all being able to create a private practice with Soul. It's just so, 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 so special to me that we get this opportunity to continue a lineage of beliefs and continue a lineage of openness and expansion. And I really, 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 really love the integration that the Egyptians had between their spiritual beliefs and their work. And so that's why I wanted to share this episode with you today, actually. Just to let you know, like, this is nothing new. I'm not teaching you anything new or original here. These are ancient ideas. What I'm teaching you is how they're relevant today and how you can work with them today so that we can understand the role of things like our devices or our technology or social media has in terms of us being able to fully embody the ideas of the past. It's so much fun. Don't you just feel so connected? And don't you just feel like part of something bigger when you think about it in this way and in this context? I love it so much. Okay, so it is Saturday morning. As I said, I'm going to sign off now. I will record another episode though, so you've got one for Wednesday because it's my, I was going to say annual, but it's not annual. It's my quarterly trip away. I'm taking leave. Well, I'm on leave now, actually, and I'm away from Monday to Friday. So not seeing any clients, not doing any of the stuff. I think I've got a Marketing with Soul call, which I will show up for on Thursday. But other than that, I'm just down in tools and I'm going to go back to Dalesford and spend some lovely time there. And I've booked into a float in Ballarat. So I'm super excited for that. And I can't wait to see what it's like somewhere else. And yeah, I'm just so excited to go and take some time away because that's where I feel inspired. Like, it's meant to be relaxing time, but I always come back feeling inspired and full of energy, and I'm so excited to go and do that. And yeah, Gabe is going to Caroline's place, so she's his babysitter. She's been his babysitter for like 10 years, and he doesn't know that he's going to spend some time with her. But it's so funny because when I go to pick him up from there, sometimes he doesn't want to come home and he walks backwards when I go to get him from the front door. He's excited to see me, and then Caroline will go and get the lead, and then he puts two and two together and he's like, no, I'm not going, I'm staying here at my friend's place, I don't want to come home. And he walks backwards. One time Caroline even had to, when I came back from trekking Everest, Gabe had been with Caroline for 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks, and 3 weeks actually. And when I went to pick him up, he really didn't want to come home, and he just sat and he refused to. Like, I was trying to pull him on his lead, and his neck was just like coming forward a little bit when I was gently tugging on it, saying, "Come on, let's go, let's go." He was like, "No, I'm not doing it." And Caroline had to pick him up and bring him out to the car, and he was just like a dead weight. Literally, he was just flopping in her hands every time she took a step to come out to the car. And then when I brought him home, he like wouldn't look at me, and he wouldn't talk to me for like 2 days. Yeah, sometimes he loves it when I go and pick him up, and other times he's like, "No, I love it here." But I'm just pleased that he's got somewhere that he loves to go. And he grew up with her family, with Caroline's son and daughter. So when Gabe first started going there, they were in primary school, and now they're at university. And sometimes the children like to, when they know that Gabe's going over there, sometimes the children will, take a day and they will go over and spend it with Gabe, and because they've moved out of home and all of that. And so it just feels so nice to know that even the kids love Gabe so much and that they want to spend time with him, and they give up a day of their weekend to come home to their mum and dad and Gabe. And they send me pictures of, taking Gabe out for, puppuccinos and stuff, and it's just, it's so lovely. But you know what? I miss him stacks when I'm away. Like, I want to message Caroline all the time and say, "How is he? What's he doing? Send me a photo." Yep, I'm that mum. So I really have to try and hold back. But anyway, I don't know why I'm telling you that, but I'll let you go. But the purpose of the episode today was really just to share with you that there is history to the way that you get to show up in your private practice. And I really believe, I know some people have a hard time with this, but I really believe that maybe we're not healers. I believe that we support people to heal themselves. But I think that the way that we do that has a history, and I think that we can see that history and we can absolutely have appreciation for that history. And this is an opportunity for us to understand that history more and really connect it in with how we want to show up in our businesses now, in terms of as above, so below, as within, so without, performing those good deeds, making the positive impact on the people that really need us, having a really clear vision and purpose for our practice that aligns with our beliefs, practicing gratitude and mindfulness, and being guided by integrity and honesty, and treating people with fairness and respect, and all those beautiful things, and developing opportunities for our own personal growth, but our professional growth and the growth of people who come into our space, and just making sure that, like the Egyptians did, as we're talking about in the context of today's episode, having a business that operates not only sustainably, but ethically. And I just think it's so special that we get to experience this, don't you? Anyway, I will let you go and have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. If you are in Melbourne, please stay nice and hydrated, and pop yourself under a tree and use all your sunscreen and stuff like that. Be safe and happy and well, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks. Bye. I hope that you loved this episode as much as I loved putting it together for you. To get more resources to help you in your private practice, head over to Instagram. My handle is @theprivatepracticecoach. And also, if you want more inquiries and referrals for your business, let me know. I have a program called Clients on Demand that opens every quarter, and I can absolutely get you some information for that as well. You are doing an amazing job. Thank you for sharing your gifts with the world. Bye.